Now, he killed it with his hands, which is very impressive. But, I mean, if he caught 100 foxes, that would have been amazing. But 300 foxes. And he took firebrands, turned them tail to tail. This sounds like something that my dad would have done. Now, my dad was older whenever I was born, so he was of that generation that they got away with a lot more. All right. My dad was born in 45. Apparently in the 50s, you could get away with about anything from the stories he told. This sounds exactly like something my dad and his friends would have done. They turned him tail to tail, put a firebrand between him, and let him loose in the fields. And he burned down all their standing crops. Burned down the corn, the olives, everything. Just destroyed everything that they had. Then, of course, they come out and I said, who did this? Well, it was Samson. So they come out against him that they're going to try to take him out. And in verse 8 it says, and he smote them hip and thigh with a great slaughter. And I tried to look up, and I didn't have enough time yesterday to dive deeper. I wonder truly what it means he smote them hip and thigh. I never could figure out in what time I had what specifically that meant. But it says he smote them hip and thigh with a great slaughter. And he went down and dwelt in the top of the rock Edom. Then the Philistines went up and pitched in Judah and spread themselves in Lehi. The men of Judah said, why are you come up against us? And they answered, to bind Samson are we come up, to do to him as he has done to us. It's one man. He's destroyed cities. But they're going to do to him what he's done to them. Yeah, at best you're going to kill one man. But they come up to Judah, and they're all big and tough. But we're going to do to him what he has done to us. Then 3,000 men of Judah went to the top of the rock Edom and said to Samson, knowest thou not that the Philistines are rulers over us? Which is a telling story of where Israel was. Here's this man that is just a one-man wrecking crew. And they have an entire army. There's 3,000 of them right there, just of Judah. But they're not going to challenge the people that are ruling over them. And they've heard that this one man has done all this damage, but 3,000 of them aren't willing to get behind him. But do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? And we're happy, apparently, with that. What is this that thou hast done unto us? And he said unto them, as they did unto me, so have I done unto them. And they said unto him, we are come down to bind thee, that we may deliver thee into the hand of the Philistines. And Samson said unto them, swear unto me that you will not fall upon me yourselves. What he's saying here is, don't try to kill me. I'm okay with you binding me, but don't try to take my life. Because he was aware enough to know he was sent to destroy the Philistines. But those were his brethren. And he did not want to fight his own people. And they spake unto him, saying, no, but we will bind thee fast and deliver thee into their hand. But surely we will not kill thee. They bound him with 2 new cords and brought him up from the rock. And when he came to Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him because they had won. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and the cords that were upon his arms became as flax that was burnt with fire, and his bands loosed from off his hands. And he found a new jawbone of an ass, and put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. So he touched something dead again. But I have a picture. There we go. You know, I heard this story I don't know how many times as a kid. I don't know that I ever saw a picture whenever I was hearing this story. He killed 1,000 men with that. You know what that doesn't have? Any reach. I mean, I'm fairly sure I've got knives longer than that. I mean, that's not a sword. I mean, honestly, it's about the size of a good-sized hammer. That's it. That's what he had. And it says that he slew 1,000 men with it. And so those are the highlights of his 20 years. What we've just gone over. Doesn't seem like very much, does it? Problem came in verse 4. It came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the Lord of the Philistines came unto her and said unto her, Entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth, and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him. And we will give thee, every one of us, 1,100 pieces of silver. Delilah said unto Samson, Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and where wilt thou mightest be bound to afflict thee? Because she was super subtle, she was super sneaky, and he was too smart to fall for it, right? She hid absolutely nothing. Here he is sitting with this woman that he thinks he loves. And she outright says, What can I do to hurt you? I want to know what it takes to tie you up and hurt you. I want to know what can kill you. What? Oh, sweetheart, I love you so much. Yeah, what'll kill you? Now, if this sounds familiar to a conversation you've had with your beloved one, don't look at them right now. Don't raise your hand. Blink really fast and I'll call the cops. All right. How ridiculous is that? But what does it tell us about Samson? What does it tell us about Samson? He's gotten comfortable not doing what he's supposed to do and still having God back him up. He knows he didn't follow the vow the way he was supposed to. But every time he messed up and was surrounded by the enemy, right before this we just read, he went into a harlot. He wakes up in the morning, he's not doing anything holy. But he wakes up in the morning and he's surrounded by the enemy. Oops, okay, let me just take the gate with me. I can sin and still be used of God. I'm good. He's got my back. He likes me. I don't have to be obedient. I don't have to maintain my vow. I don't have to be holy. I don't have to follow any rules. God is love, right? And as long as I, love Him, I can do whatever I want. Starting to sound familiar to a conversation you may have had recently? God doesn't require anything of us because He loves us. And because He's helping me, that means we're good. So yes, Delilah comes straight out and just says, tell me what gives you your strength and how that I might be bound to afflict thee. And Samson, remaining in his orneriness, as most of us men are predisposed, Samson said, bind me with 7 green withs that were never dried, and then I shall be weak as another man. He's playing with her. He's playing with sin. Let me see how close I can walk to this thing. How close can I get? Let me just keep toying with this. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green withs, which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now there were men lying await, abiding with her in the chamber. And she said unto him, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. He breaks the withs, and as a thread of tow is broken when it toucheth the fire, so his strength was not known. So he left and never came back. So she's been completely honest and said, I'm trying to figure out how to kill you. So he tells her a lie, and she tries it. And there's even men waiting in her chamber to test it out. And she wakes him up, and they try to kill him, and they don't succeed. So he does what any rational man would do. Comes back tomorrow. And Delilah said unto Samson, Behold, thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Oh, I could get in so much trouble right now. It's your fault I didn't succeed in killing you. Why would you lie to me? Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound. He said unto her, If they bind me fast with new ropes that were never occupied, then shall I be weak and be as another man. And she took the ropes. Here's the thing. I'm assuming he was awake for all this. Right? I mean, I know that there's some, heavy sleepers out there. But come on now. She took the new ropes, bound them. So there's things that you don't catch as a kid whenever you hear this in Sunday school. Is he sitting there the whole time just with a grin on his face? I love you, honey. Ooh, tie that knot tighter. It's loose. It's loose. Honey, can you move your shoulder a little bit? I can't fit the second rope on there. Let's think about the ridiculousness of the situation. And then she finishes tying the knots and retying them. Said unto him, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And there were liars in wait, abiding in the chamber. So, how many dudes were sitting in the living room or the bedroom or wherever they were at? How many dudes were sitting over there this whole time like, what did he say? He said new ropes. There's the ropes. He said 2. Oh, hold on. There's the second one. Okay, he's giggling. He told her to retie the knot. Are you done? She said 5 minutes. Samson, here they are to kill you. Oh, it's our time. Come on, guys, come on. That was the situation. Everybody piles out of the bedroom. Here they come to Samson for the second time. And it says, and he brake them from off his arms like thread. You know, it really doesn't even say what he did to them. He stands up, the ropes just snap, and goes, go back. That, false start. Let's rewind this. Let's try again. And Delilah said unto Samson, hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. He was 100% having fun with this one. He said unto her, if thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web, there's a problem here. He's getting real close to the truth. Because there's only one thing he hasn't broken yet. So he's having fun playing around with sin, playing around with death. She has told no lies up to this point. We can say that. In the Bible, there is no recorded lies that she has told him. She outright said, tell me how I can kill you. And he said, oh, yeah. Frying pan. That's just what I get threatened with. It's just, sorry, side note. And so, okay, now if you weave my hair. Now, I know there was no way he was asleep during this. He was getting the most intricate braid ever. And she fastened it with the pin and said to him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awakened out of his sleep and went away with the pin of the beam and with the web. He sat up and took the sewing machine with him. Swing his hair back and forth. And broke everything. And now it's his fault because not only did he lie to her, but he broke her sewing machine. And then in verse 15, and she said unto him, how canst thou say, I love thee, when thy heart is not with me? I'm only trying to kill you. Thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherein there is thy great strength lieth. And it came to pass that she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death. So here he is, with a woman he knows he shouldn't be with, that has openly told him she wants to kill him, and has tried 3 times. And he knows that there are people standing outside the door waiting to make it happen. And he has toyed with it, and she has tried it. And he has gotten as close to telling her without actually telling her. And she is pressing him so hard that he wants to die. But he's still going back every night. He didn't take a night off and go back home. Sin's like that. Sin does a lot of destruction before it completely kills somebody. It can cause all sorts of health problems, family problems, mental problems. It just absolutely will break a person down. But yet, we'll keep going back to it. Why? Why, whenever we know what it's trying to do? We know. People of the church, we know what sin is. We know what it's there for. But yet, we keep going back to it, night after night. And it says, when his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart. And said unto her, there hath not come a razor upon mine head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. And she knew. She knew. The enemy will know whenever you're on your last straw. They will know whenever they have got you right exactly where they want you. It says when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, come up this once, for he hath showed me all his heart. And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and brought the money in their hand. They knew it too. We got the money. The deal's not over, but we know it is. It says, and she made him sleep upon her knees. And again, as a man that shaves his head regularly, I don't see him continually sleeping through all this. But she made him sleep upon her knees and called for a man. So there's somebody else there. And she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. It says, and she began to afflict him. Not the guys that were waiting outside. She began to afflict him. And his strength went from him. And she said, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he woke out of his sleep. And this is the whole point of my lesson today. And he awoke out of his sleep and said, I will go out as at other times before and shake myself. See, no matter what he had done up to this point, he was just able to shake it off. I had sinned. Just shake that off, leave that back there. I'm good. I'm okay. God will still use me. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. But God will still use me. I'm good. I'm good. Me and God, we got something special. I'm good. Just shake myself off. You shake it off. And he'll come back to me because he loves me. And he wist not that the Lord was departed from him. The last connection had been severed. The last thing had been cut. See, in our human nature, we take the grace and mercy for granted. Because we have a God that's very graceful and very merciful. And because He doesn't knock us to the ground every time we mess up, well, it must have not been that bad. Right? Or I have a special place with God. I'm a judge. I'm a preacher. I'm a teacher. I'm on the platform. I've been in church for 30 years. So He looks over the small stuff with me. And we just let it start piling up, never understanding that we're not reaching our full potential the whole time. Because again, we've already gone through all the highlights of His 20 years. That's not that many for 20 years. You know, I sang and it sounded good. So we're fine. I'm fine. Never mind the fact that I should have already reached 100 people. Never mind that God wanted to use me in this ministry that's never been started. But me and God are good. Meanwhile, the sin is just piling up. Because I keep shaking it off. It's back there. But it's piling up back there. And it's slowly cutting off the connection I have with God. Until one day you get to that point, and you know what? You're in trouble. And you know who you need? You need Him. And you get up. I'm just going to shake it off. And me and Him will be good, and He'll take care of this for me. Except you've shaken too much off. And you've never taken responsibility for it. You've never fixed it. You've never fixed the vow. You've never fixed the connection. And it says that the Philistines took him and put out his eyes and brought him unto Gaza and bound him with fetters of brass, and he did grind in the prison house. And we're not going to read any more about Samson, because that's not the point of this lesson. If you want to know what happens with him, read it in the Bible. It's in Judges. There's one more thing that happens. There you go. There's your homework. But Hebrew chapter 12 says, Wherefore, seeing we are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily. Watch ye therefore